I gotta say, I rarely get excited about video games anymore. But every now and then there's this game that makes me think, you know what, if I'm going to play this, maybe I won't enjoy it a lot, but I definitely won't hate it. So there are these like mediocre games that are coming out and I'm like, yeah, I could probably see myself playing this and having fun. And FarCry6 is one of these games. It's about a tyrannical despot which is trying to groom his son in order to take his place as El Presidente. And all of this is happening in the middle of a civil uprising, a revolution. Now, of course, the people who made the game don't want to upset the blue check marks on Twitter, so they're not mentioning anything about communism, even though the game takes place in Cuba. In fact, I've seen a couple of game developers saying that they're purposefully not trying to connect this to any ideology in real life. But that doesn't stop Kotaku from coming out and saying, oh, this has nothing to do with communism. This has nothing to do with communism. Please look the other way. Why is that, Kotaku? Like, is it the industrial video gaming apparatus for the last 5 years lecture us that sexism in video games makes people sexist? That racismus in video games makes people racismus? How do you not know that the people from Cuba didn't see the trailer from FarCry6 and got ideas to go outside and to chant slogans like freedom, liberty, and other anti-governmental slogans? By the way, the other anti-governmental slogans, as the New York Times reported, are death to communism. Just putting it out there. It's why the New York Times refused to add that in and just said other anti-government slogans. I found that hilarious. But anyway, right, moving on. So you have like this journalist which is making a very interesting statement. It's kind of difficult not to catch on. But he is saying that other people, like probably his friends, I assume, were invited to cover the game to offer a Latinx perspective, and Ubisoft declined. Isn't that interesting? Like, why do you need to hire people from the outside of the company to give you the Latinx perspective? Not to mention, like, Latinx is a slur, if you're unaware. Like, pure research data shows that the overwhelming amount of Latin American people do not enjoy being called Latinx. You're butchering their mother's tongue. Now, I'm not saying there aren't a couple of Latin American people who had the misfortune of being indoctrinated by far-left academics, but they're not the majority of people. They're not even, like, the small minority of people. They're like the fringe. Right? So the fringe cringe, as we like to call them, yeah, they're the ones that call themselves Latinx. So you would have a more accurate representation of Cuba if you were to take DeSantis voter and ask him about what he thinks about the game than you were to have about a Latinx person. I mean, you know, there's two types of Cubans. You have the fringe cringe, which are like this gentleman right here. And then you have like the people in the background. They're all Latin, but I'm pretty sure they would give you very different perspectives about the Cuban politics. But, you know, like, that's neither here nor there. But what I want to say is that I find it fascinating. This guy is mentioning this in the article, that the fringe cringe Latinx wasn't invited. And by the way, like, just so you understand, being invited to give advice to a company isn't for free. Like, you're usually getting paid. Just so you understand, like, there is an entire industry that checks for offense. I should make an article about it. Like, if you want to write a book about, I don't know, Egypt, right? If you want to write a book, you need to have diversity. So let's say you want to have about Egypt. You need to hire a person that actually does this, and they specialize in Egyptian culture. And then they will fact check your book to make sure that you don't have anything offensive there. Like, that's a real thing. And you have, like, these experts for women, for minorities, for black people, for Jewish people, and you hire them to come into your company and fact check your book, so that if your book is found offensive, you can say, well, I had an expert and blah, 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 and your hands are clean. Like, you have this parasitic industry which has grown in the West to fact check for offense. And you're wondering why video games are becoming shit. It's because a lot of resources are now being pushed to all of these liches, to all of these parasites that do not contribute with making the game better or actually improving the product. What they are contributing is with leeching money. That's a conversation for another time. But what I want to say is that To me, it feels that because the Latinx wasn't invited, now you have Kotaku writing this article and saying if you're going to preview for Far Cry 6, at least do it right. And what he is saying is that while the game is amazing and while he likes the story and he likes the atmosphere, the people at Ubisoft are plagued by sex scandals, and you can't make a review without mentioning that. Motherfucker, why do I care? You know, like, you're a journalist at Kotaku. I'm pretty sure you bought your microphone from China, just like your keyboard. It's probably done with people being abused. There's probably some child labor that created a part in your computer, and you don't give a shit about that, but you're telling me that you really care about the abuse that's happening at Ubisoft? I mean, you know what? Maybe you care. I don't give a fuck. I legitimately don't. It's between the boss, the employee, and the cops. They should work those shit out. What I care is about the game, right? Because I go to work, I work hard every day, I make money that I put my sweat in, and then I use that money in order to buy a product that I enjoy. So all I want is a good game, period. Nothing, I don't give a shit about anything else. If you think that there are something bad happening at Ubisoft, there's like abuse or whatever, call the cops. This is me, not caring, sitting on an armchair. You know what I'm doing? Caring, not much. That's what I'm doing. I generally don't understand, like, it's so fascinating because the same journalists, right? If you have like an actor in a movie making a really dumb statement, like saying, you know, all white people are racist or all men are rapists, I don't know, like some blanket statement like that, attacking an entire community. If they do that and you want to give a negative review to the movie, they will call it review bombing. You're not allowed to do that. It's horrible. When the customer decides they don't like the way the business treats them, it's review bombing. But when the journalist doesn't like the game because of things that are happening at Ubisoft, that's perfectly fine. That is the correct way of making a preview. That is the accurate way of making a preview. I wish I would have an alternate time machine that can send me to another dimension just to see how this journalist would have treated the same game had the Latinx liaison been hired by the company. Had the oils been greased a little bit. Had the nepotism functioned a little bit better. Yeah, well, the absolute state of video gaming journalism, what can I say? Completely disgusting. How many people even read this crap? Look at this. Look how sad it is. 139 comments. I'm willing to bet my video on this matter is going to get more comments than the Kotaku article got. I'm also curious, like, how many views do their pages have? Probably they don't show it, because if they showed it, they would embarrass themselves. At least I give them props for having a comment section to begin with. But it's very curated, just so you know. Like, all the comments seem to be very in agreement with the journalist. Kind of, you know, gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on there. Like, if you post a negative comment, what is the life expectancy of a negative comment on a Kotaku forum? That's the question. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.